Welcome to APGI Digital Video Lecture Session. Our today's topic is business communication. As we know that communication is an essential part of our life. So as it is famously said that any type of ideas or feelings or expression cannot be completed without the communication. First, we are going to discuss what is communication. Communication word has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share. So communication is the exchange of thoughts, ideas, feelings, or visual signs, any type of writing, reading expressions which exist in the behavior and can be interpreted by the other person, that is called communication. Now we are going to discuss about the definition of communication. Communication is a process of involving the selection, production and transmission of signs such as that help receiver to perceive the meaning. When there is a person who deliver some signals, ideas and that reach to the receivers, that is called the communication process has been completed and the sender gives some feedback. So what is business communication? When the word business is involved, it means there is some transactions which is related to business and it is related to trade, commerce or any type of exchange of materials which is used for the benefit or for the motive of profit of the organization. So it is basically a communication which is related to business. So that is why it is called business communication. Now came to the process of communication. As we have already discussed that there is a person who sends some signals, some messages to the other person and that message has been encoded through some channels and decoded by the receiver. This is a process when the receiver gets these messages and give feedback to the sender. Then it is called a process of communication. This is our overall graph, how this communication channel is working. Then we have a source, that is sender. Then there is a message is encoded by the sender. Then channel is used. Its channel may be email, Facebook, WhatsApp or any other medium. And then there is a decoding of the messages by the receiver. And we have find out that there is a feedback channel is also. When feedback channel is there and there is some disturbance arises, that is called noise. So noise is basically when there is a disturbance in communication, that is called noise. And these are the different fields of experience of a different person. This is overall graph of our process of communication. Now the components of communication, as we have already seen in the graph that sender is one of the components. So sender and then channel is also a component. When we are going that what is channel? Channel is face-to-face discussion, instant messages, conversation, text messages, all these are the parts of channel. And sender is always used to encode the message. So what is encoding? That we are going to discuss in our next point. The receiver is a person who receives the messages. And feedback, when the person understands the message and he has to ask some questions or give some signs, that is called. So how many types of communication are there? That is called one-way communication. So what is one-way communication? When I am speaking to you, you are listening, but you are not asking any question, that is called one-way communication. Two-way communication is a communication when the person is deliver something and the other person who is sitting in front of him or asking some questions and giving feedback, that is called two-way communication. So before going to discuss, we are going to elaborate all these things in a detail. So one-way communication, as we have already discussed, that transformation of information from one direction, that is from sender to receiver. There is no opportunity for the receiver to give feedback. So like when we are watching television, weather reports, newspaper, reading, all these are the one-way communication. Now we came to know about the two-way communication. Two-way communication, when the information is transferred and there is a chance of getting feedback, then it is called two-way communication. So it is interpersonal communication, communication between the two person, classroom lectures, telephone conversation. Now we are going to discuss verbal communication. Verbal communication means when there is an involvement of words. Words means when a person is either using words by saying something or using some written communication. Then all these types of communication is called verbal communication. Like oral communication, when a person is speaking something, he is used some languages, some words, that is called oral communication or a part of a verbal communication. Now there is another type of communication, that is called written communication. When he is writing something, there is something written in the form of language or words, that is also called the verbal communication. Verbal communication basically are two types, oral and written communication. Now, another type of communication which we generally found in the organizations when there is a formal structure is there. So, communication that takes place through formal channel, that is called formal communication. So, there is another type of communication that is called formal communication where formal structure is used in the organization. Such type of communication generally happened in the organizations when there is a meeting, reports, memorandum, agendas of the communication. Another type of communication is called informal communication. When we are talking with our friends, relatives, there is no particular structure of communication. They are speaking fluently and freely, whatever they feel. That type of communication is called informal communication. Now, we can differentiate on the basis of these points how the formal communication is different from the informal communication. So when we go through that, official channel is there. In formal communication, there is some company which is related to a person is working in that particular company, then there is a official channel is used. While in informal channel, when we are talking with our friends may be working in the company or may not be working in the company. My relatives may be working in the company or may not be working. So unofficial channel. Formal structure, there is a certain structured procedure and standard of writing a particular letter in a company. But in informal, there is no particular structure. When you are writing a letter to your uncle, there is no particular structure how you have to start. You can write anything, whatever you feel. Formal letter is generally written on the basis of certain tasks or goals. When there is a need, individual, goal and oriented. When we are going to discuss about the informal communication, it is individual, goal oriented. When we talk about the formal communication, there is no need of personal relation. It is depends on the positions hierarchy. While in informal communication, there is always person think about their relations. Formal communication are generally structured in nature and slow in process, while informal communication are moves very fast. And we know that there is informal communication, there is a written documents, written informations, official information, so it is more authentic. While informal communication may or may not be authentic. So we have another example of informal communication, that is grapevine communication. It is an informal type of communication where we generally found that in offices there is a persons are working in the organization and they used to discuss certain topics which may be related to the organization, but it is not authenticated by the management. So these type of communication where it is called a grapevine communication. Now you have to understand this chart how the communication takes place. First is a gossip. Gossip, here one person is speaking something and other persons are listening. So these type of communication is called gossip type of communication. And we have another type of communication is the single strand communication. A is speaking to B, B is speaking to C, C is speaking to D, D is speaking to E. So there is a chain is going there where the information has been transferred. So this is called single strand communication. Now there is a cluster type of communication where there is a groups, 2 or 3 persons in a groups are discussing something, and there is a probability communication where this is called a random communication when you are moving somewhere or suddenly a one person came to you and you are start talking to him. So you have not planned to say something, but randomly you have said something, that is called probability communication. Now in organization we have found that there is another type of communication that is called downward communication. In downward communication, when a senior is speaking to a junior, then this communication is called downward communication. And when the senior is speaking to junior, he certainly gives some instructions, directions or orders. So that person who is a junior is receiving these instructions. So from top to bottom, this communication is moving. So it is called downward communication. Then there is another type of communication that is called upward communication, when a person who is a junior in the organization asking something to the senior, and that person has some queries, grievances, and he has some lower level work that he wants to understand from the senior. That type of communication is called upward communication, and it flow from lower level to higher level. Then there is another type of communication that is called lateral or horizontal communication. In this communication, when two persons of the same post are communicating with each other, and this is very much necessary to maintain the cordial relation and harmonious relation within the organization. So these communication takes place when there is a same level of executives are there. So there is another type of communication that is called interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication, inter means between, when there is a communication between two person, so this type of communication is called interpersonal communication, and there may be a more than two person also, and here the exchange of ideas, feelings, meanings through verbal or non-verbal messages. There is another type of communication that is called intrapersonal communication, and it is called intra means within, when the person has two different types of ideas or thought in his mind, and the person is in a dilemma situation and he is communicating within himself about these two ideas and thoughts, then this type of communication called intrapersonal communication. Here two faces are of the same person is showing the his dilemma. Now there is another type of communication is called organizational communication. Organizational communication, when there is a person working in the organizations and they are in a meeting or they are coordinating with each other. So this communication which takes place within the organization related to some organizational issues, these types of communications are called organizational communication. Mass communication. Mass communication is, we have seen the mass media through television, radio, to internet facilities, books, presses, where the these contents are available to every person, and thousands or lakhs or crores of people can watch and read at a single time. This type of communication is called mass communication, where the large audience are involved, like speech delivered by some leaders. Large audience is available. So stay tuned with us. This is all about business communication. Subscribe our channel. Thank you very much.